Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, Jeff McGinley is with us. What a super engineer he is. I've known Jeff for a long time, and his dad, Tom McGinley. He joins us along with Chris Tarr. We're talking about some engineering issues that are coming up next year, including the required move to Windows 11, and also RDS and PAD metadata and how important that is on your station, plus a few more things. Jeff McGinley coming up next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionics Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host. Delighted to be here in the Telos Alliance Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a very typical December day, a little bit cloudy. It was sunny earlier, kind of chilly today. You know, winter's upon us. In fact, I guess first day of winter officially is coming up in 2 or 3 days or so. I need to check on that. You know, being a meteorologist, you'd think I would know. Well, meteorological winter actually starts December 1st. So meteorological winter is right now. Hey, that's enough of that. Let's jump into our topic. Chris Tarr is here from Mukwonago, Wisconsin. Chris, it's great to see you. Welcome in.
Greetings and salutations, Mr. Harnack. Here in Mukwonago, Wisconsin. Finally snowing. It hasn't snowed at all, really. So I'm looking out the window here, and it's white. It's just amazing.
Is it real? How much snow do you think is on the ground?
Oh, not much. It's a dusting.
Oh. Okay. We got a dusting here. I think, well, while I was in Hawaii, so about 2.5 weeks ago, we got a dusting of snow here. But it was gone in 30 minutes. That was it.
Of course it was. And yeah. Nobody knew how to drive, and it was, I'm sure, a big mess.
Exactly. You want to come down here and give lessons, direct traffic?
See, now I'll teach people how to do donuts. That's the best part.
There you go. All right. Well, Chris, thanks for joining us today because our guest is a former colleague of mine, and I'm assuming he was a former colleague of yours. Is that right, Chris?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Well, he worked at Odyssey, right?
Yeah, but I think I might have been gone by then.
Oh, you passed it 2 ships in the night.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, let's bring him in from Birmingham, Alabama. One of my favorite engineers because he's so darn smart, and that's Jeff McGinley. Hey, Jeff, welcome in. Good to see you.
Hi, Mr. Harnack. Before we get started on everything, I do have a slight bone to pick with you. On Tuesday night, my phone started blowing up with some Facebook post. One of the smartest engineers you'll ever meet. Clearly, that's not the case, considering I spent 10 minutes trying to pair my USB headset that didn't work. Plus, I could also fill the rest of this hour naming off other engineers that deserve that type of praise, and it's not me. I wouldn't even get to myself. So thanks.
I would counter your declination of the appellation because USB is not really a broadcast technology. It's consumer technology, and we aren't. And what can you do to troubleshoot it? You can't replace any parts. All you can do is hit it.
Yeah, I mean, I had 3 different people screaming at me too, so it was a lot of pressure to be under.
Oh, well, all right. Well, I'm glad you're here. And you're still one of the smartest dudes I know, so I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here because we're going to talk about some topics. You, in your role, you've got this role that you've had for a little while now as a VP of engineering for Summit Media. You're responsible for a pretty fair amount of stuff. Tell me what your job entails these days.
Well, we've got 9 markets and about 40 some odd stations. Around the country, mainly based in the Southeast. Our outlier is in Honolulu, so it's kind of nice to get to go over there every now and again for work, as it would be. And it's we're a small and nimble team, and we've got to plan and make sure that all of our stations stay on the air. And we've actually done quite a bit, and I'd like to say that we're pretty cutting edge as far as the technology goes. Thankfully, the guys here at Summit they really embrace all the new stuff, and they like to be on the bleeding edge. So it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for reminding me that you guys have a station in Honolulu. Isn't that funny how so many businesses, including radio stations, end up with an outpost in the Hawaiian Islands? That way they can always turn a vacation into a tax deduction. Isn't that just great?
Where do I sign up for that? My outpost is like Kewaunee, Wisconsin, way up
Oh, my
north.
goodness.
I want an outpost in Hawaii.
Talk to your buddy. I mean, there's opportunities in Hawaii for ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's a lot of engineering jobs over there that are just looking for qualified people on the island. So,
Well, I was just there for 2 weeks, and I can tell you that with no fun and games. It was just all work. It really was. I never saw the beach except coming into the airport on the plane, and it was quite a lot of excitement and hair pulling and yeah. So anyway, hey, the reason we're here is to talk about some technology things that Jeff is involved with. And one of those things that I keep getting headlines in the news about Windows 10. And I know that so many broadcast systems are now running on Windows 10 and have been for a while. And I could have sworn Microsoft told us that Windows 10 would be the last Windows, that they would keep improving it after that, but you wouldn't have to wholesale change. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I swear I remember that from, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And of course, that's not the case now. They're going to stop supporting Windows 10 at some point. And Jeff, you have some thoughts on Windows 10 systems in broadcast and what we might, as engineers, what we might do. What machines do we have to update? Which ones may we not choose to update? Are there any alternatives? Is it time to buy some new hardware anyway? I'm sure the manufacturers love this. So kind of set this up for us and tell us what your thoughts and maybe your company's own thoughts on Windows 10 progression to 11.
Well, October 14th of next year is technically the date where they have said that they're going to end all support for Windows 10. If anything, like the previous versions of the operating systems, they're going to probably push that a few months to give people a little bit more time as we get closer to the date. But that's something that everybody needs to start planning for, because Windows 10 is easily the most popular operating system that's on most desktops, laptops, automation system client computers. And, October's going to be here before you know it. I mean, I was reading through the Radio World year in review today, and just remember that there was that 200-foot AM tower here about a half hour away in Alabama that was stolen. I thought it was, a few months ago. Turns out that was in February. So October of next year is going to be here before you know it. So now is really the time to try and plot this out. What are you going to update first? What are you going to update second? Look at various options of buying new gear. I have reached out to a few manufacturers. I'm not going to name names, but the Windows 11 support isn't quite ready for some products. So that's something that you're also going to do homework on and make sure that certain things can be upgraded to 11. There's certainly going to be certain things that you're going to have to spend some money on. And obviously smaller companies or people with, not the biggest budget are going to have to plan appropriately as to when they're going to, acquire that new hardware, how they're going to deploy it, everything like that. So, and then obviously there's also going to be the end user time spent, because this is a new operating system. And we all know that there's going to be a lot of questions from end users about where their specific program is and everything like that.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions, but first I want to get Chris's notions along these same lines. Chris, you take care of a bunch of stations. I'm sure you have a bunch of Windows 10 operating systems out there. What are you guys talking about doing in terms of policy come later this year?
Well, most of the things that we have on Windows 10 are all just kind of behind. They don't touch the internet. They're behind our firewalls. So, and those are our playout systems. So at this point, we're just going to hold firm on that and wait to see if they develop a version that is compatible with Windows 11. We can then discuss how we're going to move forward. But our thought at this point is that if it ain't broke, we're not going to fix it. Now, if our machines were out on the internet, that'd be a totally different story. But ours don't talk at all to the internet. We don't do updates on them. We're on the stable platform that has been working for us a long, long time now. As for everything else, we've actually gotten a lot of our stuff already on Windows 11. We've done, as you know, we've done a lot of upgrades in the past year, a year and a half, and I've just always made sure that whatever we got was running 11. So, it's not as bad for us, in terms of just everyday machines. We will have to address the playout machines at some point, but we've kind of taken a more wait and see. And if for some reason, there's an easy upgrade path, then that's what we'll do. Our hardware, all of our hardware can handle it, so that's not really an issue.
Gotcha. So it seems like when back a few years ago, when we were supposed to be moving to Windows 10 and Microsoft was really pushing that, you could do it for free for the longest time, that so many companies just hung on to Windows 7 probably. I think I still maybe have one PC that's running Windows 7. It's a PC that I don't care about much. Maybe I should. I don't know. It is on the internet, but nobody browses with it, but it's sitting there, running a couple of apps that touch other things inside the LAN. And I feel the same way, Chris, that if it's if I put in a new machine that people will be browsing and getting email with, yeah, it's going to have Windows 11. And I've got some machines that are already running Windows 11 because they came that way. And I thought, okay, well, we'll just do that. I'll get familiar with it. And then if some machines can be upgraded to Windows 11, and we'll go ahead and do that if it's not an on-air production machine involved with on-air operations. If it's a salesperson, front desk, accounting, yeah, we'll update those because we don't run any software on those machines that might be questionable. We just run standard consumer software. But yeah, for me it's the on-air machines, and we got to certainly get the okie dokie from companies that making automation software and other things that we run to make sure it'll run on Windows 11. Now, I do know, for example, of course, all of my stations are LiveWire Axia plants, and the LiveWire IP driver runs fine in Windows 11. And so I've got a couple machines where that's running. I guess, Jeff, you guys at Summit Media, I don't know, are you under any public rules where it would not be proper at all for you to run an unsupported operating system? Do you have to transition due to any public ownership rules?
No, because we're private. So we don't have any of the public ownership rules. And to Chris's point, the one thing I would say that inside of a station, we obviously we've got the best VP of IT, and he has got us locked down and safe inside the firewalls. But the vast majority of our users have laptops. And I can't exactly, say what type of security or firewall or whatever they've got at home that they could very likely get infected and then bring it back inside the firewall that way once they reconnect to the network here. So if it's a machine that just lives on the network behind a firewall, yeah, I mean, we could probably wait a little bit and take a little bit more time. But for somebody, I would be a little bit more concerned that somebody would go home, get something, and then bring it in. Right. So that's kind of where I think the push to go more of a 11, make sure everything's patched. And we do run patches on all of our automation systems. We're up to date on everything. So for us, it's going to be one of those things where we're definitely going to take much more of an active role in upgrading everything to 11. Now there is the installation assistant as well. And that makes things very easy for the upgrade path from 10 to 11. And that will actually include a PC health check that will verify, that the hardware can be upgraded to 11. There's certain, systems out there that might not be too old, but they still wouldn't be able to run 11. And by using the installation assistant, you can actually check that before you start the installation process. And it'll give you, yes, you're okay, you're good to go, or sorry, this isn't going to work.
I'm wondering about under Windows 11, what is networking like in terms of network shares? That's one of the things that scares me. I'm only kind of sort of good at network shares. I'm afraid that, okay, we'll put in Windows 11, we'll reinstall software that needs to get reinstalled, and then I may find out I don't know how to do this in Windows 11, whatever it may be. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on my fear about that?
Well, so if it's a server operating system, this doesn't really come into play. So if you're doing like a network share on a server, that's this upgrade to 11 really isn't going to, change that. I've done network shares from computer to computer on 11. It's the exact same as 10. You can right click, go into the properties, share, security. It's the exact same. You will definitely have no problem doing that.
Okay. Now, when I upgrade from 10 to 11, does that necessarily blow off all my software? Do I need to reinstall everything after I've upgraded to 11?
You shouldn't have to, but then again, you're going to want to make sure that the software that you've got is compatible with 11 before you upgrade to it, right?
Yeah.
There are some things that we have found that aren't going to be, or at least they're not ready yet to run on 11. So before you upgrade, just make sure. I mean, if it's something like a Microsoft Office suite or something like that, obviously that's going to be fine. That's going to transfer. But, I would just check, and especially if it's a third-party vendor piece of software, just shoot their support department an email. Hey, has there been any Windows 11 compatibility testing? Is there anything I should know about before I, start on the install? Anything like that.
Chris, on that same topic, you upgrade a computer to 11. Do you find that programs tend to stay in place, or is it time to reinstall everything you really need?
No, I find for the most part it carries over. Now I'm one of those guys. I'm being a tech junkie. I typically do clean installs just because I don't like to have the remnants lying around when you install a new operating system. I like to just start over clean. But in most cases, I've found in the computers we've done, most everything at this point, transfers over just fine, because it's not a completely new infrastructure. So it was just like going from 7 to 10 and everything else. There's going to be a few things that are going to be buggy, but so far I haven't run into anything, especially since 11's been around for a while now. Most everybody has updated their software to be compatible.
Okay. All right. Well, I got some questions after our break here about, what is it that requires us to use Windows? Well, there are probably programs you have that are written in Windows and run in Windows, and especially automation, broadcast automation systems, multi-track recorders and editors, and maybe there are other programs as well. But I want to ask about alternatives to that. And one way, if more and more of your station's systems, especially sales and administrative systems, are web-based or at least browser-based, then it kind of doesn't matter anymore. You could deploy Linux machines or Chrome OS. And I don't know, in some ways, I think life may get easier that way, but we'll talk about that coming up. So this week in Radio Tech, Chris Tarr is our co-host today, and Jeff McGinley is our host. He's the VP of Engineering over at Summit Media, based in Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to hear from Broadcast Bionics. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Bionics Studio. The Bionics Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionics Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionics Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Hey, fellow engineers, I've got to encourage you to browse on over to bionics.co.uk, bionics.co.uk, and check out the services that they have, the software they have, that will really help your radio station produce better content without really working any harder. And that's one of the things that Bionics is so good at, is surfacing information, capturing it, recording it, and making it easily available to push out to social media to make your station run a whole lot better and provide a lot more content out there. Thanks so much to Broadcast Bionics for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, Chris Tarr is along, and Jeff McGinley is along. We're talking about this forced upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11. How forced is it? And what's going to be involved? I was just reading, Jeff and Chris, that the upgrade from 10 to 11 is free. There's no cost for that if you've got Windows 10, a license for Windows 10. So I got some computers that I don't think we ever activated. And so the Windows 10 was never paid for. And down in the corner, it says, activate Windows. And yet the computer works fine. It always has. I wonder, can I upgrade to Windows 11 without having a paid Windows 10? Any idea?
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Yeah, I know.
I mean, I don't think you have any issue. It probably would upgrade and run for a bit until Microsoft gets a little bit smarter about that. But there are certainly computers I've seen around that have been asking for activation for Windows for quite some time. So I bet you'd be able to upgrade it. It's just how long is it going to be able to run for?
Gotcha. Well, I'm always told that, well, hey, they're gathering and selling your telemetry. I don't know how true that is, but seems like it probably everybody else is. So do I need to pay them to gather my telemetry and sell that? So this notion of more and more things we do being browser based. So for example, my full-time job at Telos Alliance, we are totally in the Google Workspace world. So we don't need Word, we don't need PowerPoint, we don't need Excel. All those things are available in our browsers on any computer, doesn't matter the operating system. Do you find, Jeff, that more of your things that you need to run your broadcast facilities are running browser-based?
Absolutely. Traffic scheduling, our music scheduling, that's all browser-based. Our remote voice trackers, we use RCS Zeta, so Zeta to Go. It's browser-based. It's not an installed app. So there is a number of different things that are basically just going browser-based for almost everything. So, and it makes things very easy. Even the Zeta Cloud, our disaster recovery software, that's all browser-based as well. And I mean, you could put the entire radio station in the cloud at this point.
Interesting. Chris, how about you? What are you guys experiencing in terms of browser usage to get your job done?
Well, like you, we use Google Workspace for corporate stuff. We use Simian, so we still use regular program software to do voice tracking and things. But what we've done is something a little different because we're completely remote. So we only have, I think, 2 locations where we have live on-air stuff live. Everything else is tracked locally. But that's one of the reasons is it just, it makes IT easier to handle when you're dealing with that. But one of the things that we do is we have what's called a scrubber. So all of our on-air machines you can't touch through the internet, but what you can do is transfer files through an intermediary. So we have a machine that gathers those files, and that machine obviously is always updated and patched and running antivirus and things like that. But then it only transfers certain types of files to the other machines on the network, and only through certain ports are allowed to connect through. It's not actually a network share. So that's one of the things we can do. Our traffic is on the cloud, and And all of our music is, all of our music library and everything is actually AWS. So, we don't really store. I have a small file server, but it's really more for just, keeping stuff handy. And I do have malware scanning and A/B scanning on that, but we don't really have any kind of big file servers or anything else. Everything now is either Google or AWS. And then, the few things that do require, network transferring is usually all done very strictly through a firewall, crossing between networks and only allowing certain types of things to go back and forth.
Wow, that's interesting. I'd like to understand more about that. Maybe we can do a show about that in the future. Yeah, you mentioned voice tracking, Jeff, and all of our stations are using Playout One, and so yeah, the voice tracking that is on that is browser based as well. It's amazing what the browser can do these days. My employer, Telos Alliance, I mean, you can just do almost everything through a browser, and the response time. It's amazing the data that can pass back and forth so quickly. That you can have, really accurate meters and faders that even feel nice and listen to audio with WebRTC and have that be very low delay where it's actually quite usable. So, of course, there's a back end where, that stuff is running on Windows machines at our radio station. Maybe in the future that those would be, I don't know. They might be running in a cloud somewhere. In fact, I suspect that'll be the case at some point. I want to pivot and talk about a topic, Jeff, that's been near and dear to your heart, and that is some newer audio processing from your former employer, my employer, Telos Alliance, and how you've also implemented some software from RCS that handles your RDS data and, importantly, your PAD on HD. And oh my goodness, it's so refreshing to dial up a radio station that has, good informational, quick responding and accurate RDS data, or if you're listening to the HD, the PAD data. So you get a nice display. And our Hawaii stations, we made extra sure to get that done. And it is. Jeff, tell me about what you've been working on with audio processing and with this metadata for the last year or so.
So it's pretty exciting because at the beginning of this year, like literally the very beginning of this year, we flipped a light switch and we went away from our old streaming encoder devices, and we deployed and changed all of our stations all at once over to Forza with Zipstream. And we had Paul Kriegler of the Omnia tune-up fame. He dialed in and helped us tune up each one of the formats. We took the presets that we created for a format. We just basically mapped it across the country. And it just sits and runs. I'll patch the servers every now and again, but other than that, we have not had a single issue with Forza with Zipstream. Couldn't be more happy with that. And with the way that the streams sound. And I welcome anyone to go ahead and tune into one of our streams and send me suggestions or tell me what you don't like about it. Because I think all of our streams sound really, really good. So that's kind of a really cool thing that, we're coming up on a year on that. And it was a big deal. It was a big project that we did. And it was basically a light switch that had to happen, and it had to happen company wide all at once. So that was a really neat project. And it's nice to see that it's coming up on its annual, anniversary, as it would. The other thing is that the other big project that we really kind of took on this year was RCS has developed a new RDS and PAD encoding software called Audio Display. And we also put that on all of our stations because we don't do anything kind of half-assed. Apparently, we've got to do it all at once. So we flipped over all of our encoding to Audio Display, and we've been working with RCS and getting it all down and making sure that it runs correctly. And it is something else. It really is. It's great. So the RDS is quick and zippy. We can get into the config on the back end, which is also hosted and done everything on the browser. And then, any PAD station, any of our HD stations, we've got station logos, album art. We've been able to delay the album art to catch up with a song. So basically, you're not going to see the album art flip on and then the song comes on 15 seconds later, 20 seconds later. RCS has given us a delay in both RDS and PAD for that. And it's been a big project, but we're fine. It's humming along as well. So those were two really big projects as far as streaming and encoding goes with the metadata that we took on this year, and we've conquered that sucker. So I'm glad to see 2024 end with those two big projects in the books.
Interesting. Chris, what's been your company's approach to RDS? Do you really work hard to get it on every station?
Absolutely. And that wasn't always the case. When I first started, we had, a couple of stations that had it, and that was about it. And I went through a process where I rolled it out to all of our stations. Now, we're doing it, we're a small group, so, we don't have, the wherewithal to do like a jump to go or anything else. So we're using a combination of things. We're generally, all of our non-HD stations, we use Magic RDS, and I have that running on a couple of virtual servers, virtual machines. And then for the stations that do HD, we're doing Center Stage, and that allows us to do the album art and everything else. But one of the things I did do is move all of that stuff into our data center. Originally, where we did have RDS, it was running on individual machines, or a lot like our streaming and everything else. It was all kind of scattered. So with Magic RDS, I have those all running on one or two instances for the entire group, and that way I can monitor and make sure that everything is consistent from station to station. With our streaming, we use wide orbit streaming, and we can send metadata to there, and that's we can control the formatting with that. And those are just running on low power, small desktop machines. I use Stereo Tool for the processing. So that seems to work out really, really well. But yeah, metadata is so important. And not only that, but, keeping it consistent. And that was kind of the hard part is, the stations that we had that did do it, they're all kind of doing different types of formatting and that sort of thing. So, to bring consistency to it was a huge thing. And then, again, like I said, with Magic RDS, it's not the most fully featured thing, but when you have, 21 stations and then another additional probably 10 translators that all run RDS, we just couldn't afford to, the tens of thousands of dollars to do an upgrade like that, where for, $300 or $400, whatever, I can run all of our FMs on an instance of Magic RDS.
A big part of our station group's programming is some long form programming. Whether it's a show we take like Liveline, or Throwback Nation. We play Throwback Nation on several of our stations where we're not playing the music locally. Plenty of the shows we are playing the music locally, like Murphy, Sam, and Jody, and other shows like that. Rowdy Yates' show, where the country show, we play our own music and we have their interstitials that come in. But if you're playing a long form show, you may not have the metadata of what song is playing. And there's this a company in I think in Australia, Media Realm. Mediarealm.com.au, so Australia, and they offer this service where you stream your station to them. They figure out what song you're playing, and they send back the metadata to your encoder, which maybe I think they also have software that would play nice with that as well. So I haven't implemented that yet, but we're certainly thinking about it. Larry Fuss, my business partner there, knows of at least somebody that's using it, loves it. What do you guys think about that, where you actually send your programming off somewhere else to identify the title and artist that you don't conveniently have in your hand at that point?
I feel like I've heard of that coming for some time now at this point. I mean, as long as it's quick and it's not overly delayed, I mean, big deal. It's metadata. It's not like it's the end of the world, but it would be a really nice thing to have. So I don't see the harm in it. Why not?
Speaking of delayed, maybe you guys can chime in on this. In Maui, we put 6 FMs on. Well, it's complicated. We bought 6 stations, 2 are AMs, but there's a bunch of translators. And so anyway, there's a whole bunch of RDS going on. There's 8 different program feeds, and I think 6 of them have RDS on them. Anyway, we've noticed a huge difference in automobiles. And I know you know this, but our RDS does not look the same on two different cars, two different new cars. We had this Nissan truck that was terrific, and the radio display was wonderfully big, and it displayed very nicely the radio text data and all that, except it was consistently 15 to 20 seconds behind what it should have been. Whereas we had the station bought a little Kia car, and its display updated much more quickly to show us title and artist. But in several of the fields where there was a space between two words, the car would insert an underscore. We weren't transmitting the underscore, and the car would do it. And Larry's looking at the car thinking, Kirk, get that underscore out of there. I said, Larry, there's no underscore in there. You can go look. We're not transmitting an underscore. Your thoughts, gentlemen, on different car radios, and what do you do to verify it's working right? We have a couple of Innovonics receivers, which are great because they show us presumably exactly what we're sending. Jeff, you have a go ahead.
Let me jump in real quick. One of the issues we have is we're not following a spec. We're breaking it. We're making RDS do what it's not supposed to do. So, and as we like to joke, the great thing about standards is there's plenty to choose from. And, when they build these things, they're not, there's a spec, and I'm sure they build it to spec, but we're throwing things at it that they weren't expecting or that they weren't planning on seeing. And I run into that too. And I had to do a lot of education with our other stakeholders to say, listen, that's going to happen. You're going to see different things on different cars, and here's why. And unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do. Now I do, like you, I have in all of my markets, I have Innovonics receivers where I can log in and check RDS, and those work really well, and they play well with what we're doing. But we have cars that don't, when you're sending the radio text, it doesn't scroll all the way through, or on the 8-character display, it doesn't rotate. And all of that is, really that it was never meant to have dynamic data, and we're just tricking it to do that. So it doesn't surprise me too much that it doesn't work, in every car.
Good point. Jeff, how about you?
One of the things we've fought in higher end automobiles is that certain companies will cache like a station logo. And instead of the radio reaching out to, the transmitter, or whoever is actually sending out the data, what it's doing is it's going to an intermediary site, and it's pulling the cached logo. And we've actually had instances where we have flipped formats and then, uploaded different logos, and somebody will turn on their car and, hey, look, that's not the right format. It's not the right logo. Look, we're doing everything we can on our part, but that's the radio that is in this manufacturer, that the car manufacturer chose. There's not much we can do in that situation. It's just hope that they will rescan and pull the updated logo at some point and start pushing it out. So that's one of the other fun things that we found. And I feel completely helpless whenever we get a report like that. There's nothing really I can do to fix it. It's just one of those things that, you kind of try and explain it, but eventually it'll get caught up. So we're just going to have to wait and see when that happens.
Yeah. I know some of that myself in Hawaii, that an old logo was showing up. Yeah. Hey, we got more to talk about. We're talking with Chris Tarr and with Jeff McGinley about, some current engineering topics. We talked about Windows 10 and having to move to 11, RDS and PAD data. And we got more to chat about as well. I love getting Jeff's ideas and bouncing those off Chris too, about hot engineering topics, things that are affecting their lives and what they've been working on. I'm Kirk Harnack. It's This Week in Radio Tech, and Chris Tarr, this message is for you. I was talking to Mike Dosh, Catfish from Angry Audio, and Mike specifically asked me to ask you to talk about mic processing from Angry Audio. He loves what you have to say about it, and so he'd love to hear you talk about it. So
unfortunately, I'm not using.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm not using the microphone that I normally use that does have the processing on it, so I'm going to have to wing it. I love my Angry Audio processor. I bought a Rebel, which is meant for the RE20. There's two different models of mic processors from Angry Audio. There's the Smooth, and the Smooth, the SM stands for SM7. So you can use an SM7 or SM5. The Rebel is for the RE20. And this thing makes you sound so big. I've been looking for this sound forever and could not recreate it on, the different processors that I have, like the 528E and the 286S. I've just not had a good time getting that sound that I've wanted. However, the Chameleon Rebel has done that. And it's amazing because it's so simple and so straightforward. If you see there's that front cover, you pull that off and you only have a couple of adjustments. The reason why is that when they designed this, Corny designed the inside, the software and the algorithm tailored to that particular microphone and that particular microphone's characteristics. So there's no need to have a whole bunch of different items to tweak because it's already been kind of pre-tweaked to handle the microphone that you've plugged into it. So you only have a couple of controls, a drive, you have a couple of limited, low and high end connections, and then something called, like they call it the room size. And it's like a gate, but it doesn't function like a normal gate. It literally makes the sound of your room change, bigger, smaller, and it does work. It functions like a gate, but it's not like any gate I've ever used. So, again, it's so simple to use, so simple. Right out of the box, even before you make adjustments, it sounds great. And then when you take a few minutes to actually dial it in, it sounds really good. You can see the front panel there. And the room tone is what they talk about there. And it sounds so cool. I can sit there and, turn this thing up and down and hear the room noise get sucked in or blown out. And the de-esser too. I normally don't use de-essers, but this one is it's different. It doesn't just clip off high frequencies. It actually is dynamic and it reduces sibilance without dulling out the high end. So again, the greatest thing about this is it's tailored to those particular microphones. So it really is plug and play. You'll sound great out of the box, but even better when you tweak it. And so when I'm doing my voice tracking for our stations, I just love the way it sounds. It just sounds so big. And whether you're right up on the mic or far away, the sound is so consistent. So check it out. You can see more about it at angryaudio.com. Your favorite broadcast dealer has them for sale. They're fairly affordable. I bought a B stock and I just love it. So check it out today. The Rebel and the Smooth Audio Chameleons from Angry Audio.
And the best part is there's a little bit of Cornelius Gould in every box.
Oh, it's just amazing how he did that. And it's an interesting story with Catfish. They were talking about mic processors and he was trying to design something and he said, Corny, I really hate having all of these controls on there. How do we fix that? And Corey said, well, the problem is you don't really know what you're connecting to it. And so you got to have all these different parameters. And that's when Catfish said, what if we knew what kind of mic was going to get plugged in? Would that help? And that changed it. So there you go. It's really cool.
And that means there's not an Angry Audio mic processor for everything. There's Angry Audio mic processor for a series of the most popular microphones in broadcasting, the Electro Voice RE series and the SM series from Shure. Thanks a lot, Chris, and thanks to Angry Audio for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Our show is also brought to you by Max Connect and their U.192. This is a pretty amazing box. There's nothing else like it, really nothing else like it in the broadcasting world. What is it? It's the world's first USB audio interface designed specifically for software-based radio processors like Stereo Tool or Omnia SST. They've eliminated the hassle of trying to find and configure computer sound cards, which was a problem, to deliver the performance that you need to drive your transmission chain. So it's got stereo analog inputs and outputs on Studio Hub connectors. Those are the RJ45 connectors. And these are high performance ADC and DAC, delivering over 112 dB of dynamic range. But they also have an analog MPX composite output on BNC connectors. That's on the back of the U192. And what this means is you can connect this to USB on the computer that's running Stereo Tool or Omnia SST, and this is your output device. This device turns a digital USB signal into just practically perfect MPX or FM composite signal. Super duper clean, designed to do it. Capacitor free in the signal chain. So you get right down to DC. You get a beautiful, fantastic bass, no tilt. Just really, really works well. Front panel of signal LEDs show you at a glance that the outputs are active. It has a built-in AC/DC power supply, no wall wart, powder-coated steel enclosure. Sucker's heavy. It's not going anywhere. And broadcast-grade design for 24/7 operation. Love this thing. The Max Connect Broadcast U.192. It's actually designed and built by Angry Audio. The brainchild of this was Josh Bone and his crew at Max Connect. You can get this from Max Connect. Go to maxconnect.com. Go to any of your favorite, Max Connect dealer, and they will hook you up. Thanks, Max Connect, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack. Chris Tarr is along, and so is Jeff McGinley. Let's see, Jeff, as we talked about, the PAD and RDS and how important that is. It's so sad when you punch a radio in your car, and where it's supposed to say, have the RDS title and artist, it says asterisk RDS asterisk. That's sad. Yeah. It's just so sad.
Or no artist, no title, or no artist information, or something like that. So
yeah.
And can I also just also throw on some love to Catfish and Horny? We have a pile of the smooths. Unlike Chris, we use the SM7s and the smooths. And I'm ordering another pile at the first of the year. Just love the suckers. They just sound amazing.
Yeah.
So I can't get enough of those.
Yeah, they are great. With RDS, one of the things, it's just like HD radio. One of the sayings I use all the time is nothing wrecks a great technology like poor implementation. And, that's what we see a lot of times with RDS. And what's bad from a business perspective is that, with the infotainment systems now, that's why radio does not get a lot of love from these car manufacturers, because, you put on Spotify or you put on, satellite radio, or whatever you have, and you get this beautiful information, all this title and artist and artwork and everything else. And then, they turn on the radio and you see a frequency, and that's it. And so, it's really imperative that we get on this bandwagon and we do everything we can to make inroads into the connected car, because, again, it's the car manufacturers are like, well, there's nothing sexy about this. We hit the button for FM and it says 103.3 and that's it. So, there's no reason not to do RDS anymore. Even if, you want to do the very basics, you can get Pura, that Russian company. They have really inexpensive encoders that work well, and set them up. Learn how to set them up and do it properly. There's a little bit of a curve if you've never done it before, but you got to do it. I mean, that's just from an industry perspective. We need to be better with HD, with time alignment and everything else, and RDS to do these things correctly.
Yep, absolutely agree. I want to move our subject a little bit more to something in the area that, well, both of you guys would actually be kind of expert in. Jeff, as VP of engineering for your company, you manage some other engineers, and you maybe you get an edict, or maybe something that you've come up with at the corporate level that your field engineers need to come up to speed on. And Chris, same thing for you. And Chris, I don't know that if you have some colleagues that you work with in engineering, but there are things that you need to learn, for yourself, for the stations you take care of. What is kind of on your radar for this coming year, 2025, that either you're up to speed on, but you need to make sure your people are, or you need to get up to speed on? And I'm thinking of any technology that maybe is already out there, but we just haven't been implementing very well. Maybe I'm thinking of new ways to make sure programming gets to our transmitter sites reliably, and there's some technologies out there that kind of feed forward technologies to store some programming at the transmitter site. Maybe it's services like, I think we're going to be hearing more from a company called Super Hi-Fi in the next year or two as they roll out some of their services. And I'm not talking about things that take away the creative part of radio. I know this sounds like a sales job. I'm not selling anything, but technologies that make it easier for the talent to provide more localism than they're doing now. They don't have to spend time doing things that can be automated or maybe done by AI. So anyway, with that kind of setup, and I know I'm being kind of broad and nebulous here, Jeff, are there technologies that you want to make sure you and your people are up to date on? If you could teach them some things or make sure you learn along with them, what might that look like for the coming year?
You literally just specified everything from the microphone to the antenna. So I don't know how much you want me to dial down here. So one of the things you did mention, the audio transport from the studio to the transmitter site. One thing is that I am really kind of leaning towards the fact of, we have an older 950 transmitter, it needs thousands of dollars to repair. I would rather not put the money back into 950 at this point when 11 gig has gotten to be, very affordable. There's some great companies out there that they're doing turnkey installations for actually pretty cheap. And we're actually going to be upgrading a number of our 950 links over to 11 gig. So that's going to be something that my guys are going to have to pick up on. We're going to have to change the transmit and receive gear on that. And we've kind of got a standard that we're leaning into. So my guys are going to have to get more up to date with, the IP delivery over an 11 gig for an STL. So some of my guys are doing it already, and some, they're going to be tackling it earlier or early next year, excuse me. And as far as the audio display, the RDS and PAD stuff, right now it's only been a few of us that have been working on it. And hopefully within the next month or two, my local guys will actually get logins so that they can start doing more administration on their stations. We're working with RCS on that, on a way to kind of get a power user created so that we can give our guys, more control over their stations. So they're going to have to get up to speed with like how we've been doing the new RDS and PAD stuff. That's absolutely something that they're going to have to kind of take ownership for, and I really want them to as well. So it's going to be, we've got some projects coming up. I mean, thankfully we're all leaning into a company-wide standard, and it's going to be kind of piecemeal depending upon the market as to what they're going to have to learn and get up to speed about.
I'll dovetail on what you said there about 11 gig. And Chris, I want to hear from you in just a minute, but I had a limited experience with 11 gig myself at a station about an hour and a half drive away from here, using it to haul to a transmitter site, live wire data over a licensed 11 gig link. And from there, we use some of the live wire there at that site, and then they pushed some more of the live wire onto another site. So that was pretty effective. In Maui, we installed a licensed 11 gig link, and it's going 28 kilometers, however many miles that is. I guess that's probably 18 miles, something like that. I don't know, close. And we're running 4 micro MPX feeds to Omnia MPX nodes at the transmitter site for 4 stations, and that's working quite well. We did. I want to tell you, we did have a problem. We described this last week. We had a terrible data starvation problem with the Omnia MPX nodes. They just kept not getting all the data they were supposed to, and yet the IP link was working fine. The problem turned out to be the old TP-Link 10100 Ethernet switch that was up there. Who knew that an Ethernet switch, instead of just dying completely, would just say, well, I'm only going to give you 85% of your packets. How about that? So that's what it did. Once we got that switched out, everything's perfect. I want to point out, and Chris will probably riff on this too, when you talk about replacing, Jeff, 950 links, which are one way, and they do pretty much one thing, and that's some audio, typically MPX composite audio. If you put in 11 gig link or any IP radio link, but the 11 gig is licensed, it's your frequency, shouldn't be interfered with, you get data both ways. And so, VoIP phone, security cameras, telemetry from the transmitter site, receivers of the transmitter site, you can, bring that audio back over IP, all kinds of things you can do when you take the time to install a bidirectional IP link instead of a unidirectional 950 link. Chris, what are your thoughts on this topic for technology next year?
Oh, totally agree. We're going down that path too. Our situation's a little unique in that all of our stations are in the state of Wisconsin, and so we don't really have distributed markets. Now I have a staff of people, contractors and other part-time people who are great. But we've moved pretty much all to IP delivery. One of the reasons is because we're centralized in a state. All of our people are local, even though they may work from home or whatever. So we've used that opportunity to reduce our costs now that we've decided to do a work from home kind of thing and get rid of some of our buildings and move things around. And what that has required is eliminating STL links. In almost every case, we've had to get rid of STL links because we can't get a really good a shot. And we didn't want that to prevent us from getting excellent office space or whatever, being limited to wherever we can get a shot from. And also, that also means there are some markets where we don't have a local studio because we're not that far away from the neighboring city. So we've gone almost all fiber with IP links by Gates Air. And those have been really, really reliable. We've found some things that we've prevented in our larger markets where, we really want to be careful, where we've mirrored playback systems back to the transmitter site. But we use a combination of a 5 gig point-to-point radios in situations where, we know there's not going to be a lot of interference. In our case, we're all small markets, so we can usually get away with that. I've had a dual hop 5 gig link running for 5 years without a single glitch. So we do that. But yeah, we've moved almost completely to IP delivery, bidirectional. We've put all of our systems onto Burke and combined those on a Arc Plus system. We've got security cameras. So this is, for my guys, this is a totally new thing. All of this technology, we moved to Livewire in all of the facilities that we do have. And we've done things like, for example, we have play-by-play sports on one of our stations, but that particular station is fed from our operation center or our server center, data center, which is an hour away. So that's where the studio is, or where the playout system is. But the play-by-play happens locally. So we actually have it set up where this person can use a Comrex into the local studio and then hop down to our data center and back, all using IP over fiber. And so, we've had to create some creative ways to do these things, but it really has changed the way we work because all of those constraints are gone. We're not beholden to location. We can be anywhere, and, we're at the point now where I can run any of our stations from any of our physical locations really easily.
Oh my goodness. Wow. We got to do a whole show on that, how you've got that laid out. That would be amazing to understand. Hey, Chris Tarr is with us, and so is Jeff McGinley. We're going to have tips of the week coming up in just a minute. But next, we're going to hear from one of the most enthusiastic air talents there ever was. It's St. John to talk about VoxPro. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's VoxPro. Now, a lot of folks have used previous versions of VoxPro, all awesome, but I want to tell you about some of my favorite new features in 7. And for folks who've never used VoxPro before, I'm about to tell you why it's an absolute game changer and essential for really fast-paced multi-element radio. Lots of different audio software out there. Why VoxPro? Because it was designed for radio. It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in VoxPro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom. From caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready.
Call 5, ready for that secret sound.
Boom. All of that stuff, hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit.
You are tackling secret sound, caller 9.
I'm ready, St. John.
So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Literally saves 80% of your editing and cleanup time. Final thing that I love about VoxPro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. VoxPro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about VoxPro, and you will be glad you did.
And actually, to get VoxPro, you need to get it from a dealer. And so you can call Broadcasters General Store, 352-622-7700, or go to their website at bgs.cc for Broadcasters General Store. Merry Christmas from everybody, especially Jessica and Jonathan and just everybody at Broadcasters General Store. And I really thank them for their sponsorship of This Week in Radio Tech. Good folks, call them, go to their website. Love those guys. All right, it's time for a tip of the week. And since I didn't warn Jeff about this, let's hit up Chris Tarr first with a tip of the week. Chris, can you help us out?
Oh, sure. So, as I mentioned before, I have a lot of contract engineers and part-time people, and we have a lot of transmitter sites. So I've started putting checklists on the door as you walk out, doing things such as, hey, is a transmitter in remote? Did you check the air pressure of the line? Have you, gone out to the base and made sure? So there's a whole list of to-dos as you walk out the door. And I just laminated it, stuck it on the door, and I use that as a reminder to people. And then, of course, we have the maintenance log that you sign when you come and go. But you'd be surprised how just that little simple sheet catches your attention walking out the door and reminds people that, there are some simple things that we want to do every time we go to a site, no matter what. So, cheap and easy, and just a really nice little simple thing to do.
That sure is. I love that idea. And you know what? Heard that before, and I need to implement that. It's good for other things, too. My son, Michael, has been staying here at my house all this week, and so I've been taking him to school early in the morning. And, every morning it's, Michael, did you brush your teeth? Did you brush your hair? Do you have your backpack? Are you wearing shoes? You wearing underwear, or is this commando day? And it'd be so much easier if just put on his bedroom door, right next to the door. So as he walks out, he can see that. Michael, did you look at your checklist today? That's a great idea. All right. And in Hawaii, we walked away from Mount Haleakala one day, and the transmitters were in local. So we fixed that a couple days later. It's quite a ride. All right, Jeff McGinley, real quick, do you have a tip of the week for something you'd like to pass along? Some knowledge, wisdom, maybe?
I've got something that I think all of us kind of just overlook, and it's something that I've become a lot more diligent about checking out. But, once a week, maybe twice a week, check in on your satellite receivers, be it an XDS, a Wegener, or something like that. Make sure that you're still locked on the bird. Make sure that the RF level is still high. We have had multiple times where we lost the bird and we flipped over to internet only mode on a couple of receivers, which, it can stutter. There's not really any buffering for it, and certainly has affected satellite shows. So every now and again, once, twice a week, check on your satellite receivers, make sure you still got a lock and that your RF level is good. That's my tip.
That is a great tip. Are there any satellite receivers that you can program to warn you that they're not really good?
Relays and closures. Yeah. I mean, there probably is the loss of that, but I haven't looked into it. So
I need to look through that new Wegener eye pump that a lot of stations have implemented in the last 2 years or so. I'm thinking that one's pretty sophisticated. It might have some warning in there. You make a great point. And of course, satellite being kind of a one-way deal, although the satellite operators can look into your receiver remotely, I don't know if they do or not. We're at two different stations. We're affiliates of Liveline, the John Garabedian show that he owns, that with Mason Kelter as the host. Great show. Love the music they're playing, and Mason's just, what a talent he is. But they actually check over the internet on all their affiliates' computers to make sure they're receiving, good to go. And if you got a problem, they'll send you an email. Hey, I'm not seeing your receiver online. But that's terrestrial distribution. But great point. Check your sat receivers for signal. Hey, you may have a wasp nest, building up in there, and come in one day and find you got an outage. Great advice. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Chris Tarr, appreciate you joining us from Mukwonago. It's good to see you. and Jeff McGinley from Birmingham, just down the road. It's dark outside. Be careful driving home, okay? Okay.
Well, Merry
All right.
Christmas, everyone, and thanks for having me on, guys.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, the next time we'll see you, everybody, will be after Christmas. Our guest next week is a programming coach and consultant, John Shambi. And John, he's a writer, regular writer for Radio Inc. magazine. And he's going to talk to us about how programming changes in the next year may affect what engineers are doing and how we as engineers can support the programming decisions that are being made by corporations and so forth. Let's see. Jeff, be sure you don't leave. Hang on for a minute. We're going to say thanks to Suncast for producing today's show, being the technical director and the producer. Really appreciate that. And we'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.